We're going to talk about point slope form. So what that means is you need to be able to write an equation of a line with a point here and a slope, okay, which we're going to be either given or we're going to have to find from a graph or we're going to have to solve using 2 points. So we're going to start off with our first example here. I want you to see if you can write an equation with a slope of 2 that passes through the point 8, 9. So what I'm going to do is literally I'm just plugging in my values. So I know that this value is my x value, and I know that this value is my y value. So what I'm going to do is wherever I have a y1, I'm going to replace it with a 9. Wherever I have an m, I'm going to replace it with a 2, and wherever I have an x1, I'm going to replace it with an 8. So it's going to look like this. Y minus my y1 is 9 is equal to my m, which is 2, times x minus my x1 value is 8. Something to notice, so this is my final answer. I don't even have to do anything. You want to notice, though, that this equation calls for subtraction. So here and here is supposed to be subtraction. Okay, so when my points are positive, here and here, when these numbers are positive, this down here stays a subtraction. This down here stays a subtraction because that's how my equation is written. These will change if my points here happen to be negative. So let's do another example. Example number 2 says, I want now, let's just pick my slope to be 1/2, and I want it to pass through my point -1, 4. So I'm still going to use my same equation. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so let's pick out our stuff. Here's my slope. Here's my slope, which is 1/2. My x value is -1, and my y value is 4. So I'm going to plug in my numbers exactly where my equation is. So it's going to look like this. Y minus my y1 is 4 equals my m, which is 1/2, times x minus, now the number that I'm plugging in here is a -1. I'm plugging it in using parentheses so that I understand that it is a negative number and then it doesn't just look like subtraction. So I'm going through and I say, okay, well, minus a negative is the same as adding. I add the opposite. So this equation actually turns into y minus 4 equals 1/2 times x plus 1, where this is my final answer. This changed to a plus 1 because in my original problem, all the way up here, this point was negative. Okay. Now, let's move on. Example number 3. If I make it a little bit harder, now I want to say I need to write an equation of a line that passes through 2 points. So I have to be able to say I can find the slope of a line. So we're going to use these points. I want you to write an equation of a line that passes through the following points. 1, -19, and -2, -7. Now we have to remember, we still need our 2 things. We need to have our slope, and we need to choose a point. Okay, so they don't give us our slope anymore, so now I have to find my slope. To find my slope, the formula for slope is the change in y divided by the change in x, which more specifically says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What does that mean? That means if I label my points, if I say that this is point number 1 and this is point number 2, and remember, points go x comma y, I can say right here, In point number 2, what's my y value? In point number 1, what's my y value? In point number 2, what's my x value? And in point number 1, what's my x value? So I'm going to take these values and I'm going to plug them in. So in point number 2, my y value is -7. In point number 1, my y value, I'm putting these in parentheses because they're negative, is -19. In point number 2, my x value is -2. And in point number 1, my x value is 1. And I don't have to put this in parentheses because it's not negative. Okay, now I have to do the math. So here, minus a negative means to add the opposite. So this is really asking you what's -7 plus 19. So I'm going to figure that out. I'm going to say -7 plus 19, that's equal to +12. And what's -2 minus 1? That's -3. Now I have to divide. 12 divided by -3 is equal to -4. This tells me that my slope is equal to -4. So I'm going to write this down. My slope is equal to -4. So after I find my slope, I have to choose one of my points. My points, I'm going to choose the point 1, -19. It doesn't matter which point you choose. You just have to choose one. Some of the problems are going to tell you they want you to choose a specific point, but when they don't tell you, you get to make the choice. So then I remember my equation. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And I'm going to plug in my stuff. So I know that my slope is equal to -4. I know that my x value, my x1 is equal to 1, and my y1 is equal to -19. So if I plug it all in, I get y minus -19 is equal to -4 times x minus 1. Remember, minus a negative is the same as add the opposite. So this becomes y plus 19 equals -4 times x minus 1. And that's your final answer.